Minister for Lands then. Anyway, long story short, when I came to Nairobi, you spelled out what you wanted done. Then we started the work of putting together a system that would help remake our education sector. Then in around January, February, you appointed Professor Magoha as the chairperson of the Kenya National Examination Council. And I remember that memorable Saturday morning, as though it happened yesterday, when you rounded us up, together with my peers then, Belio Kipsang, Nancy Masharia, Secretary TSC, Professor Magoha, and myself. And you spelled out clearly what you wanted done. You said, we must bring an end to examination cheating in this country. My colleagues know what we go through during those situations. Because you said, mwache ujinga wa kusa mtihani hapo. And you said this year, it is not going to happen. Ama mutafute njingine. Then that was the clarion call or order that we needed, which led to the formation of an amazing fraternity in government during some of my happiest days in this life. We teamed up, as you directed then, with CS Musheru, then CS ICT, my brother, the late Joseph Kaiseri, the CS for Interior. And you imposed a very punishing schedule on us. I'm now saying that after I've left the government, but you imposed a very punishing schedule on us, wanting updates on a fortnight basis of what you were doing to address the mess in the education sector. And we worked slavishly, but very happily, because you outlined specific results you wanted, and all those wonderful people. And may the Lord bless the late Joseph Kaiseri, and now my brother, Professor Magoha. I have never been happier, and I've never worked with such wonderful people. From the Kenya School of Leadership in Mount Kenya, where we went that time with Joe Musheru, Joseph Kaiseri, and Magoha to meet with the DCCs and the education directors as you instructed us. We spent time there in the cold, trying to build a system of collaboration between the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Education to manage exams to make sure we sort this out. Professor Magoha was so committed that he actually traveled to Uganda himself, because when we were looking at various systems around and we thought we could borrow a leaf from here, borrow a leaf from there, and so on, that which was close, he was so committed that he traveled himself. He said he doesn't want hearsay. He came here, he brought the report together with a critique on what we would do and change the whole thing. And we had a very enjoyable time doing a hard but pleasurable task of remaking the education sector. And through all that time, because even when more changes happened in government, I ended up in the Ministry of Interior, you insisted that we will not dismantle the tripartite partnership between the Ministry of ICT, Interior, and the Ministry of Education. As Professor Magoha himself liked to put it, we are joined at the hip. And so we must work together all the time. We spent long hours meeting all those wonderful Kenyans, and God has blessed us with wonderful people, called district commissioners, county commissioners, regional directors of education, and all those people. Every day repeating to them that what President Kenyatta wants is ABCD, because Professor Magoha said, we serve at the pleasure of number one, and our job is to outline his vision and ensure that it's delivered. All the tasks you gave at the Ministry of Education, and let me say here without fear of contradiction, because we live in a country where people are so dishonest, they love lies, they behave as if there was nothing happening yesterday, they are lecturing us now about things they think they are new. If Professor Magoha had not served as the Minister of Education, Your Excellency, your plan for NEMIS the National Education Information Management System would not have worked. And let nobody take credit for this. This was President Kenyatta's plan together with the World Bank, and that's how we got to where we are, the Director and the Minister of Education. Your plan on expansion of school infrastructure through 20,000 classrooms would never have worked. Your reform of the school bursary system would never have worked. The school desks program, I remember when you demanded of us that we move money to the villages and get carpenters in every village and have the desks done in the villages. Then you told Professor Magoha and myself, you don't want a story, you want results. And we sat, at some point, even some of our senior officers were trying to be a little bit smart, where they would cut corners. Joe helps us get a hold of Safaricom and the data from there for M-Pesa and payment. And we're able to move money on the digital platform very easily across villages in the country. And many, many things that were done to remake the education sector in this country because of the commitment and the work and partnership that we did together. Professor Magoha was the turbo engine, and my colleagues can bear me out. Professor is the one who charged the room. Every time we were in the room, he's the one who supplied the energy. He was always vibrant and he wanted things to be done. And so, as one of our colleagues, CS Rachel Mamo, said the other day when we met, she said this, and frankly, I agree with her, that we celebrate Professor and we sincerely submit ourselves to the Lord and say, this man actually completed his work. He was full of energy. He did all of his work. There was nothing that you did with Magoha that was undone. He did all of his work. He lived his full life. Was never bored any minute. He never knew a moment for stories. And I have to say this, because again, this is another aspect of our society. In a country where these days we hardly go through a day without being reminded about regions, who comes from what region and what region is important, what region should own government, and so on and so forth. Not once. And we hired across the board, we had many discussions. Your Excellency, not once did Magoha entertain a discussion about people's backgrounds, about people's ethnicity, about people's regions. Magoha was driven by only one consideration: delivery and excellence in getting the work done. His disdain for politics was not concealed, and his impatience for mediocrity was real. He had no time for pettiness and small talk, and small things around town. He was always driven for results. He said, what does number one want? That's what we do. And this is the way we go. For all of us who worked with Professor Magoha in cabinet, and for me and my colleagues in the education sector in the last 5 or 6 years, we'll be everlastingly grateful to God for the life of this, our wonderful brother. And if there is anything we can do in this world as a tribute to Professor Magoha, in our small way, wherever life takes us, wherever life finds us, we just try to emulate that thing. Honest, sincere delivery of service to the people, period. Nothing else matters. And because of that, a lot of work was done in our country. Your Excellency, there are many things to say. There's problems that you demanded solved and how you wanted. For example, a reorganization of the CQI program by the World Bank. We would never actually have discovered the challenges with that program if Magoha had not served as the Minister of Education. The program was going to be held hostage by certain officials of the ministry, and the government and the people of Kenya were going to lose if Magoha had not been minister in that. And when you insisted that you wanted to see for yourself the data and the facts and everything and how they were done, Magoha delivered. There wasn't a day that you gave assignments and you said things be done in a particular way that Magoha was saying or even grumbling. The other thing I never heard from Magoha for all the time that I worked with him, I never heard Magoha once whine and moan and grumble and complain about systems and people and what have you. He moved in one direction. When Professor Magoha stepped in the room, you knew a leader had arrived. When there was an argument, you predicted Professor Magoha's side even before the argument began. The side would be where the facts are, where the truth is. That is Magoha's side, no matter what. So, honestly, this erudite scholar, very solid academic of unparalleled credentials. There are many people in this world who claim academic credentials. Magoha didn't have to lecture anybody about them. He lived them and you saw them. Since he passed away, I've been called by so many people, colleagues we worked with in the education sector from across the region, because people know how useful Magoha was, for example, to the Inter-University Council of East Africa, to the university standards and the university commissioning credentials across this particular region. Some of our countries in the region could not actually approve their medical schools without Professor Magoha looking at their curriculum. That's how solid and important he was amongst us. I hope that in celebrating him, we emulate those good things he did. Finally, I am not in authority these days, so I can only share hopes. I hope that somebody somewhere in this environment, in the context of all these things that happen and the cacophony and the noises that we hear every day, many of them unhelpful to anybody, will think about how we can immortalize Professor Magoha's contribution to our society. Either one university will create a chair and name it after Professor Magoha, or a scholarship program and name it after Professor Magoha, or name a research program after Professor Magoha. And actually, if people were to be very honest and sincere, like the universities, and do something like that, a lot of us ordinary citizens of this country who admired his life and had an opportunity to work with him will make our small sacrifices and contribute to that, because that is the greatness of our society. Magoha exhibited the best of Kenya, not the worst of Kenya, the best of our country. And I believe when I see some of the things I see somewhere, someplace these days, I believe Kenya is better than this. And I think about great people like Professor Magoha. And let all of us go forth and do whatever we can. There's only one request I have, and I was asked to make on behalf of my cabinet colleagues. Mama, I'm told there are 1 or 2 kids that Professor Magoha was supporting for school fees. Michael, my cabinet colleagues, those of us who served with Magoha in cabinet, under the leadership of our president, we will make a contribution, because the president told me to talk to my colleagues in cabinet to see whether there's anything he can help us to do to support 1 or 2 of those kids that Magoha was supporting. Let none of them be stranded on account of our brother's departure. Our president is keen on this. He has invested a lot on this. He will help us and guide us to try and help some of those kids so that they are not stuck. And we will work together the way we have worked together, quietly with my brothers and sisters, ex-PSS, so that we also honor our colleague, because I think it's a morally right thing to do. It's the honest thing to do, and even in the face of God, it's the just and sensible thing to do at this time. We wish you all the best. All my colleagues who are not here, some of whom have traveled, have sent their messages of condolences. They're here. Michael, you know we are in very deep conversation with you on things that we need to do, some we don't need to say here. And I want to assure you, we will work with you. We'll do the best we can. No one, let's not pretend, no one will fit in Magoha's shoes. Let's not pretend. No one will fit in Magoha's shoes. We can only do the best we can, the way God will help us, or whatever God will help us to do, just to alleviate momentary pain and help you move to the next day as we all continue walking the journey of this life. May the Lord shine his face upon you. May the Lord hold you with his mighty right hand. May the Lord bless you indeed. And Michael, there's nothing more challenging than to walk in the footsteps of a towering father. May the Lord bless you so that as you sustain that name and that generation, God will raise you up to keep to that particular legacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Waziri Matiang'i. At this moment, I would like to invite former Vice President, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, to also give his tribute.
My good friend, Father Mugunda. Yes, my brother. It's good to see you. Though under very difficult circumstances. Your Excellency, they call you the fourth president. I call you my brother. And you cannot begin to isolate him and make him the fourth. He's still my brother and my president. Mama Margaret, Mrs. Magoha, your wonderful son. You shared those last moments very deeply with President Uhuru. You know, I didn't get very close to Professor Magoha, and I know why. He was so forthright. Not that I'm not forthright. and I knew, yes, we had a disdained politicians, but I think he was the greatest leader. And you combine these attributes, and you end up with a man of great excellence. And you can understand why you would have no time for tribal talk, as Fred has said, because he himself went beyond tribal boundaries. And why would he then get himself constrained here to talk of Aluo, Aluya, Mkamba, Kikuyu? In fact, I'm told when he went for vetting, that question was raised. And how he handled it, I think everybody was left aghast. Because he would then point out that as mediocrity. I was once, upon a time, Your Excellency, Minister for Education, for actually a good 3.5 years. And Mzee Mudi Awori, believe it or not, was my assistant minister. And the thing I remember that I did, there are two things. First of all, teachers came demonstrating along Harambee Avenue, and I looked through the window, and they said, "Minister with baby face, sink with the canoe, and not with the teachers." I remember that. Magoha did not have to go through that kind of torture, because it was firm. And he didn't have to handle a strike, because I was handling a huge strike that time. And from Foreign Affairs, where Mzee Moi had posted me, and I go to education, I believe that was tough. The next thing I remember, Your Excellency, is I actually outlawed the corporal punishment from our schools. I don't remember anything else major. But here we are celebrating, I think he was also a physician, wasn't he? A great medical man, chairman of medical dentists and practitioners, something. They worked with a young man called Daniel Yumbia, and they were able to put discipline, even at that level of medical practitioners, not just within the education sector. So you can understand why I shied away from meeting Professor Magoha, because you remind me of mediocrity when I was Minister for Education. So, is Magoha Luo? Is he a Luya? He's a Kenyan. And here we are really burying a true nationalist. Fred, I think you have said it properly. Nobody can replace Professor George Magoha. And this is the real bully. George was not. He just was putting across his point so that we can all end up with a better country. Are we not now paining? He says he sees me doing things which are pretty controversial. And unlike George, I'll continue doing those things until we realize that Professor Magoha wanted a country which is all inclusive, which is devoid of corruption, open corruption, a country that is spewing hatred right now. What would George think of hearing his number one? Because I've heard about number one severally. Number one now being victimized. I want to tell you, Kenyans, Joe, you, my brother, I suspect you're very close in terms of how old is who is older than who. If you, yes, between us, if anybody was today to go out and seem to victimize President Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't know what is going to happen to this country. Because in his time, allow me to say that, because he was Magoha's boss. I happen to have been in politics for a long time because I entered there young, even unmarried. And so I've seen it all. Even when Mzee Kenyatta left us in 78, I was at the Kenya School of Law. The first time I went to State House, I saw him, Mzee, laying in state. And these men, great, some of them tall, blue ties, and must conclude, all of you have fallen short of Magoha standards except me. I'm wearing a tie. You're wearing a collar. You can get away with it. I actually must admit I had to think about it. And in honor of Professor Magoha, those standards, and compromisingly high standards, that is the brother we are escorting. And so I saw Mzee Moi take over from Mzee Kenyatta, and eventually Mzee Moi, Mzee Kibaki took over from Mzee Moi. Seamless transition. And nobody, no name calling. And I can tell you the truth, truthfully, that there are some with me in cabinet at that time who wanted Mzee Moi dispossessed of the place he stays, a place in Kibera, near there. And so when these friends brought the matter up in cabinet, of course we objected, some of us. These are no secrets anymore. And we said, no. So Mzee Kibaki actually ordered Chris Murangaru and Kiraitu Murungi to deliver the title deed to Mzee Moi, to show that we must respect our leaders at that level if we are going to have a country. So what does Mzee Kibaki in return? President Uhuru takes over from Mzee Kibaki. He considered Kibaki his father. So what is this we are hearing around town? The pettiness about which Fred is talking. You hear things that clearly will remind you of a country like Zambia. When President Chiluba took over from Kaunda and he started saying Kaunda is a Malawian after having been president for 28 years, Chiluba did not last. So here as we celebrate this great Kenyan, a colossus of an academic giant, and a nonsense minister, one who would he touched my heart once, and I tell you how, and then I conclude. He was announcing the results, and I now know, because President Uhuru had said, no more exam cheating. And then there's a school patched between, if you know the Rakanidi, between Marimanti and Sekuru, my village, on the river Tana. We named this school after my late mother, Mama Malia. George announces the most improved student that year. A little girl who had gone to Form 1, having scored only 100 points. And it's really failure. And this girl ends up getting a B and going to the university. That really excited Professor Magoha. He said, I don't even know where this Mama Malia school is. Wherever it is, we are very proud that the most improved girl in the whole country has come from a place nobody knows about. That was George, even lifting people from nowhere. Now, I must conclude by wishing this family well. Mama and Michael, you told me when I came, I've just been here for the first time. You were in school with Kennedy. Look for him and tell him to get a wife. Because he actually told me he was disciplining them. Yeah. So that we can end up with more Magohas. Friends, it's important. Let's all stand together in solidarity at this time. If you think some of us are going crazy, it is because we think we love this country, like Professor George Magoha did. And now I've had so many of those secrets. If being opposition, I was opposition to Jubilee, so it was really, had I known some of these important tricks, I would probably have come out supporting you. But here is a man, a colossus of a Kenyan nationalist, whom we are trying to say kwaheri to. But again, as I prayed, very difficult circumstances under which we are burying him. Buries his brother, then he doesn't end up making all the arrangements to bury him. He doesn't end up there. He ends up in the morgue. May the gracious Lord, the Father of humanity, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on Professor George Magoha. Controversial, yes, but straight, so that he will know the goodness of the kingdom in the hereafter. Amen.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Professor Magoha, in his straight talk, used to say he is only answerable to two authorities. One is God, then the second one, the appointing authority, who is His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And he would say that without fear. So with that note, we want... So with that, we wish to invite His Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta to give his tribute and his remarks. His Excellency.
Mrs. Magoha, family, Jana, your wife, the extended family, colleagues who we have worked together with. We're here today to condole with you, Mama, and your family, but also to celebrate the life colleague, a man of great integrity, a hard-working Kenyan, a sincere Kenyan, a man who was dedicated to the cause of education in this country. I had the opportunity to first meet up with Professor Magoha when he was still the Vice Chancellor at the University of Nairobi. And we had the opportunity to interact a number of times. And by speaking with him, I got to realize that this was a man who was not interested in position, but rather what he could do with position. You know, there's a very big difference. There are people who seek position for the sake of it. But there are those who are in position and are interested in what they can do with that position for the greater good. George Magoha belongs in that category of Kenyan. He was a man who, as I said earlier, would speak his mind. He was a man who did not fear speaking to truth. You may not like what he had to say. You may even disagree with what he had to say, but he would say it. And that, as much as he had great disdain for politicians, that is the mark of a leader. Because a leader leads from the front. Some of the challenges that he had to face were challenges that many would have run away from, saying this is too difficult, or this is too controversial, or this is going to have a problem. Prof, as I used to call him, never backed down, never shied away, so long as he believed it was the right thing to do. He would lead from the front. He would lead from the front. When I appointed him after his term at the university ended, and I appointed him to head the National Examination Council, exactly what Fred said here. We were going through a lot of challenges with exams in this country. And when we met and went through, and I repeat again, leading from the front, Professor took it personally. Professor used to go and ensure where are the exams being printed, supervising it, not sending officers, supervising it himself personally. How are they being packed? Supervising it himself personally. How are they being shipped? Himself. When they land in Kenya, where they are, how they are, until they get to the respective containers. Assigning ministers and PSs and other officers, you are in charge to make sure this container is open, make sure the seal is intact, make sure this is intact, make sure this is intact, to the point that he brought integrity back to our exams. And there is no doubt, and I believe that when I made him a minister, I made the right choice in putting at the helm of education a man who deserved that position, and from there continued to do what he did in addressing the curriculum challenges that we had, in bringing on board a new education system. People may say whatever they want to say. Hiyo ni wataongea, utaona watarudi tu hapo hapo. Hoja wacha wapatiwe nafasi wapige gumzo. They will come back there. Kuna pahali ingine wataenda. Yeah? Because it was not done to hate this one, to spite that one, to do this one. It was done in the interest of the children of this republic, to better prepare them for that future that was rapidly or radically different from the future that some of us had to look forward to. That is what he was preparing. Kenyans who are able to be up to the challenge of this changing world. And we are grateful to him for that. And we are grateful for his leadership. I think this country has lost not only a great soldier, a great soul, a committed man, but it has also lost a sincere individual, a loyal man, and a person who truly loved what he did. He had no time for the hairy-fairy of office. No, him, it was a job. You know, there are two types of people. There are people who talk a lot about what they will do and do nothing. And those are many. But there are people who will talk very little, but do a lot, and their deeds are seen. Magoha belongs to that class of people who are doers. Very little, talking, but in executing. The deeds are there and will never be wiped out, no matter what anybody may wish. or desire. Mine, Mama, and to your family, he was our colleague, and we worked as a team. We were a team. We were together. And as such, you are also our team members. And with us, you have a family, because we were a family. And we will continue to stand with you, and whatever it is that you may require of us, you can count on us, and we shall be there for you, just as Magoha was there for us and for Kenya. We shall be there for you and your family. May the Almighty God rest this great soul in eternal peace. We shall walk these final days as we prepare to give him a befitting send-off together, and you can count on us to be with you. Na wewe Steve, usijali hii watu wanapiga mdomo, wacha wapige bana. Unajua mtu ambaye hana kitu kingine ya kufanya lazima apige mdomo. Wacha wapige mdomo. Hiyo ni dunia. Sisi tunaendelea na yetu. Mungu awabariki na walinde. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now we are through with speeches. I want us now to all arise and sing one hymn before Reverend Father. Thank you very much. We are used to working in a consultative forum, and that's what His Excellency taught us. So we would want to invite Dr. and Mrs. Magoha to come and say a word. Madam Karibu.
I want to thank you people very much for coming. And I want to remove that serious face of Magoha so that you know the other side of Magoha. Exactly 1 month after we met, he started telling people we are going to get married. And that was the first time we had a quarrel. I said, how can you do that? He said, no, I know you will not accept because I'm not a Nigerian. So you go and tell them why you can't marry me. So when we continued, got married. When I was pregnant with my son, I was in between life and death with my blood pressure. He told me if this is what pregnancy is all about, this is closed, this case is closed. And when I had my son, because of the blood pressure and everything, I didn't have any milk. You can't imagine, by 6:30, I had 2 liters of fruit juice, squeezed by him every morning before going to work. And the others used to say, what type of a man is this? Considering the fact that he was not a Nigerian, that's a story for another day. Those days, we Nigerians marrying from the same village was the norm because somehow we were never related. So to hear that I left the village, left the town, left the county, those we still call them states, we call them states. Left the other states, left the whole of Nigeria. It was like, you are crazy. Everybody said, you are crazy. What's wrong with you? In fact, there was this slang that what is there in Sokoto is there in Shokoto. Sokoto is the farthest point northwest of Nigeria. Shokoto. Written the same way, but pronounced Sokoto. T-O, shokoto, means trouser in Yoruba language. So they say, what you are looking for so far away is here. Where are you? So he will say, what did they say? Another day, I'll tell you why his closeness to my mom was so strong that when my mom passed on, it was like he had lost a part of him. He almost broke down in church. Then, another incident was when I had a near-fatal accident 24 years ago when I was coming back from a delivery. I had a head-on collision, and my car turned back to facing where I was coming from. And some people it was around 2 a.m., Holy Thursday. And the people came out from one of the men, they told me, I know you, I'm going to save you. Where do you want to go to? I said, take me to Nairobi Hospital. When I arrived there, the student, they all said, you were my teacher. I said, now I know I'm in safe hands. So I now opened my handbag, because all along I held my handbag to my side. I opened my handbag, I called him, I said, I have an accident, I'm okay, I'm here. And the first thing he said when he came and saw me was, I want you alive, with or without your leg. And I answered him, I told him, I'm alive, number one. Number two, the leg has no permission to go anywhere. I will come back, my legs will come back together, and I will go back to my high heels. Apparently nobody had ever seen me without high heels. So it was something difficult for people to accept. Even my patients would just come to see, do you have your high heels on? So he was very jovial. Behind that screen was an extremely jovial man. And he used to tell me, I must go before you. Because if you go before me, I will not last. That was always his prayers. So throughout those years, those 20 years, when I'm sick, I'm praying to God not for me to get well for my sake, but for his sake. Because if anything were to happen, any exams or whatever, I know within 10 minutes, everything would be over. That's how close we were. The toughest time of our marriage was when COVID was there. And I told him, if this is the way you were meant to go, then you'll go. If it is not, you pull through. You have to do what you have to do. But we take the risk. You can imagine a family of doctors. He's not a doctor, but he's so exposed. Here was I with my patients. Here was my son, my daughter-in-law. We are all doctors. So it was just like, we are like, if it happens, it happens. But we must soldier on. I gave him that support, and we made it through. And he always said, family came first. He believed in family. From the first day, he said, if I'm up and my family is down, then I'm down. And that's what made me to get involved with him. Because people would say, why did you leave so many Nigerians? He was unique in that way. That caring attitude, I never saw anywhere. He was very loyal. He told me he was going to be somewhere at 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock he'll be there. It didn't matter. If by 3 he was not there, he would call. If he has not called by 3, I know something was wrong. He made sure he helped whoever. He said, my father used to tell me, you never kick an enemy when he's on the ground. You fight and fight, When the person is on the ground, you stop. And that's why at times when there was so much argument and he knew the other person was down, he would give up just for that. The third one, he was so forgiving. People never knew that. He will talk, scream. The same person you are screaming with, if he says, I have a headache, he will, have you taken medicine? He will come, bring medicine. He will forget every other thing and take care of you till it's over. Then he will tell you, that thing we are discussing is over. That's the end of the story. Whatever it is you were arguing about, he will never bring it up. No matter how you try to bring it up, he will give it to you. But he will say, these are my reservations. If you can work on this, we can be fine. If not, we'll leave it the way it is. Very, very loving. Like his colleagues in NEC used to say, when he wants to get something for me, he tells them to wait. I'm getting something for the boss. And he would call, what do you need? 1, 2, 3. He was very supportive. I supported him, and he appreciated. That appreciation was so much. It made me to go a step further. If I had to stand on one foot the whole night for him to achieve what he wanted the following morning, I would do it. Because when it's over, he would come back and say, without you, I would never have made it. Saying I'll miss him is an understatement. But I know we used to work like two major generals. I used to call him Major General. He's commanding the 1st Battalion and I'm in the 2nd Battalion. So when he has finished, usually during the war, sorry, I know a bit of war because I experienced Biafra firsthand. During the war, if they are going to capture a city like my city, it was Biafra in the morning, Nigeria in the afternoon, then 3 a.m. things change. But whenever they went to capture a city, the 1st Battalion will go. And then the 2nd Battalion will now go when everything is sorted out. So I used to prepare him. I said, okay, 1st Battalion, you go. Then you come back for the 2nd Battalion. So now the 1st Battalion is gone. I think I have now to put on the shoes of the 1st Battalion and carry on and train the rest. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam, for bringing that into perspective. So we will rise and we will rise and sing one hymn, and then thereafter
let's sing, O Lord my God. O Lord my God, when I'm in awesome wonder, consider all the works thy hand has made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe display. And sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when I think that God is not sparing, sent him to die, I scarce can take it in. That on the cross, my burden gladly bearing, he bled and died to take away my sins. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shouts of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. Then I shall bow in humble adoration and God proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee.
And let us appreciate that God has brought them this far. God our Father, we now offer our faith family to you. You have brought them this far by your goodness, by your love. Now, they are in these circumstances, and we offer them to you, and that they go through these years with your blessings, with your strength, and with your protection. We want to pray for the whole of the Magoha family. We all know what they've been going through. We offer them to you too. Bless them and give them your peace. As we go on now to prepare to send off our brother George, we ask you, Lord, to give them much strength and give us the goodness and the love to keep supporting them. We ask you to bless each one of us here present. Bless our former president and his family. Bless all of us, those who have been in government, those who have been in other ministries and so on. We ask you to bless us and continue showing us your way, and let us always walk according to your will. And we pray these, believing in the love of God through Christ our Lord. The Lord be with you. And may Almighty God bless each one of us, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
How are you doing? How are you doing? Okay. Habari yako waziri? Salama. Agnes. How are you doing? Well done.
Yes, Hey, Mike, go there. You told them not to come.
Yes, they were calling me for this passport.
Yes, okay. We can try, we can try and work on something. Within an hour, it should be done.
Yeah, everything is there. I think it's just. We can also make some
Keep us posted where you think we can help. Yeah? So now I have to invite him for tea so that I have peace. Otherwise, there's not going to be peace. I'll be in trouble. You can take care, my friend. All right. Hi, how are you?
Lord Jungle.
Ah, yes. Sawa. Kwa heri mami. Nimemwona. Right. Fantastic.
That's right.
Absolutely. Wonderful. God bless you, Mama. Yeah? Asante sana. Asante. I'll be in touch. All right. Kwa heri. Asante sana. Asante, asante. Then sings my soul. Okay. Okay, friend. So you call me when you finish with the meeting?
And after we finish this evening, I'll call you back.
But after you finish your meeting, you'll call me. Yeah. Let me know how it goes.
Right away.
Yeah? You call me. Sawa. Bye, man.
Sorry.
Kwa heri ya kuonana. Asante, asante, asante. Mambo.
Waziri. Waziri.
Mbele. Kwani unafanya hivi? Kuja twende hapa ndani. Si umemaliza?
Hadi hao watu. Kitu hata iko live mtu anaweza andika hizo vitu zake. Na anakuambia anataka. Wewe umetuma. Tuna split story. Rightfully so.
Sasa kwetu
Sasa Lilian anapatiwa story ya wife.
Kwetu hata sitakagi kuwaproposia vitu
position, but we do not find that a basis has been laid for us to introduce Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance Party into these proceedings. Now, the second question, the second issue that we have noted is that the appointment of this tribunal was publicized, and we've been aware of its existence. A number of witnesses, in fact, majority of witnesses have testified. We were told yesterday that we were only left with 2 witnesses. The choice to come into the proceedings now, when we've been aware of the existence of this tribunal, and noting that the commission to us, the mandate that was given to us, asked, among other things, that we be expeditious in the question whether or not to recommend the removal of the commissioner. So, Mr. Omari, with respect, we say that we cannot sanction your party's participation into these proceedings. So I wish you well. Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much. Probably in light of the directions issued by the chair, we shall be seeking for the proceedings with a view of challenging the decision of the tribunal on the grounds that we shall take instructions from our clients and see to it that fair administrative action is done and is also seen to be done. But for now, we respect the decision, we'll abide by it, but we shall be, if kindly, be facilitated with the proceedings and the ruling for us to take instructions on the way forward. Thank you very much.
Yes, we shall make great effort to make sure that you are availed the proceedings and the decision in its length as soon as possible so that you can take whatever appropriate action that you seek to do. Thank you very much.
Much obliged.
Welcome to a world of instant. Instant coffee, instant toast, even instant popcorn. Now, for the first time ever, get instant Mabati quotations. Introducing the Mabati Calculator, the first in Africa. A friendly, easy-to-use interface you can access for free at the comfort of your home on a laptop. Or if you're on site or on the go, simply access it on your smartphone. Visit RafikiRufiMabati.com today to access this revolutionary new utility.
Many thanks, Chair and members. With your permission, we are willing to call Mr. Wafula Chebukati as our next witness.
Chairman, before maybe Peter calls the next witness, I wanted to raise an issue on which arose from yesterday's evidence of the two commissioners, Bolu and Gulie. Mr. Chairman, if you look at the original petitions, the allegations the foundation basically of just talking generally about the press conference at Serena and maybe what happened at Bomas. And I've never had an issue with those grounds as they are. But the evidence of Gulie and Bolu yesterday took a new tangent. If you look at the tenor of the evidence, they were saying that my client basically wanted to deny President William Ruto the presidency. And it creates a new ground. Before, there were no such grounds in the four petitions filed in the National Assembly. But the evidence and the line of cross-examination by Peter Munge yesterday introduced a new angle, which forces me to raise the issue of maybe actual or apparent bias by the tribunal in view of what was raised yesterday. And I need to raise the issue of bias on how it is, and just for a few minutes. Mr. Chairman, one of the doctrines of any tribunal is the doctrine, of course, of Nemo Judex in Causa Sua. A tribunal must be impartial in its sitting. Article 51 also gives my client the right that she ought to appear before a tribunal that's impartial. But now, once this angle was introduced yesterday, it endangers the liberty of my client. And I want to raise at this early opportunity. The Gazette notice that the established tribunal, Mr. Chairman, appointed Caroline Kamende Daudi as the commissioner, as a tribunal member, and she's your vice. Emmanuel Gibet as the joint secretary, and my friend Peter Munge as the lead counsel. the way this tribunal is constituted, Mr. Chairman, is the commissioners and the joint secretary and the lead counsel is one and the same. It's not like a normal court where the prosecutor is independent body. But a tribunal in its setting is that the commissioner, the commissioners, the joint secretary, and the lead counsel is one and the same. They work together. And that's the danger now, where it lies. Mr. Chairman, Caroline Kamende Daud is actually my good friend. And she can tell you that when she was running to be the vice president of LSK, I supported her and the President Nelson Harvey, and they won. And they remain my good friends. But during the Supreme Court decision, Caroline Kamende Daudi acted for the president. And she was part of the legal team. And I know and I'm aware that my friend also Linda Kiome, whom I'd never met before, but we've worked together before, ran for she was running to be the deputy governor for Meru in a UDA ticket. My friend Emmanuel Kibet, again, I never met Kibet before until this tribunal. But his business partner, Professor Githure Kindiki, is my friend.